Welcome back to the Valisight podcast, the show where finance leaders, CFOs, and innovators challenge the status quo and explore how AI, strategy, and storytelling are shaping business. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to lead with clarity, conviction, and innovation. Kendra Mathias is a finance leader with over 15 years of experience managing multi-billion dollar P&Ls and shaping strategy across technology, retail, and consumer goods. She currently leads finance for a major business as Amazon, where she drives insights, builds scalable processes, and influences decision-making at the highest levels. What sends Kendra apart isn't just her technical experience, it's her ability to transform numbers into narratives that inspire action, mentor high-performing teams, and apply what she calls, and we're going to talk about this, a day one mindset to fuel innovation and ownership. Before her current role, Kendra held leadership positions at Toys R Us, oh my goodness, one of my favorites, and Credit Suisse, where she guided capital raises, valuations, and strategic growth initiatives. She's also a sought-after speaker at global forums, including where I met her at the World Finance Forum and the NABA National Convention. In this conversation, we'll dive into how to thrive in a highly matrixed, high-stake environment, why financial storytelling is a superpower in leadership, the role of mentorship and mindset in building future finance leaders, how AI is reshaping finance today, and what skills will matter most in the future, and how platforms, if we have time, how platforms like Valisight are giving CFOs and finance teams real-time clarity. Kendra, I know that was a lot, man. I could say so much more. It's such a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the Valisight podcast.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too, I'll tell you. And I remember when I saw you on stage at the World Finance Forum. I'll give a little bit of the story and feel free to fill in what I missed. But you were up there, big smile, just ready to go. And as you were talking, I'm like, oh my goodness, her communication skills, like I am tuning in. And of course, something happens to the tech, right? Like there was little glitches or it paused. And you just kept going. I'm like, I am inspired, like just on your game, fully prepped. But it was just a reminder to me. It was like, you have to know your stuff, and you were killing it. I mean, the AV guys are running through, they're trying to figure it out. And you were like, the show goes on, and you had us all captivated. I was so impressed. I don't know if you were like sweating underneath, but you looked like it was like, wow, this is just another day. I'm good. It was amazing.
I appreciate that. It was, but it was a good test for me to live up to some of the things that I was going to say right there, live and in real. So it was
That's
great.
right. A room full of CFOs and finance leaders, and you didn't skip a beat. So I definitely, that was one of the big takeaways in my toolkit is just know your stuff. Well, I'd love to chat with you about it. I mean, you've worked across tech, retail, finance. What's the common thread in how you've approached leadership?
The common thread for every industry I've ever been in is really relationships. It's relationships. I mean, it's indicative of me sitting here with you, right? Building relationships with people and understanding where they're coming from. It allows you not only to be, you can be an amazing finance professional, but if you are able to relate to people, understand what they need, what their goals are, it just makes you that much better to be able to walk with them as a partner. And so that's my approach to leadership, making sure that I'm connecting with people and connecting with their goal or mission of their department, of their group, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and you're the head of FP&A, so I can only imagine the different departments that are coming up to you and trying to figure out how do we add a little bit more on this budget or forecast. I mean, and that can be a bit taxing or even nerve-wracking, especially for those listening. There's a lot of FP&A folk. I mean, that's where I love to spend my time in FP&A strategic finance. But how do you build those relationships? How have you done it over the years, especially for some, I mean, those are some big names that I just mentioned. Those are large departments, large corporations as well.
Yes. And it can be tough, especially when you first start, right? Understanding how who all the key players are. And so for me, one of the major things that I make sure I do as I'm onboarding, let's say to a new role and I'm in a highly matrix organization or group as I am now, I definitely try to understand who all my stakeholders are, make sure I understand what they need, what they're looking for, and how I'm either there to support them or how I'm there to communicate effectively so that I can get what I need. And kind of just letting that be the theme of all my engagements and understanding how the business works, paying attention to it, understanding how it works so that I can look around corners, think ahead, think behind sometimes. What did I do wrong and learn from it?
Love
And
it.
just kind of take that with me as I'm trucking along.
And you're a student of the game. I love it. I'm already fired up. So well, let's talk about that. Like what experiences led you to understand to create that strategy, if you will, right? Around people, resource management, relationship management. And you've been in these high stake, as I mentioned earlier, these high stake environments, these companies that are moving fast. I mean, a large part of the economy, the US, well, shoot, global economy. How did you learn all of this and start to maneuver and mold?
If you think about it, what makes you a valuable finance professional is not just your financial acumen, or sometimes, even though I will say communication is probably the utmost important skill, it's not just that. It's really being able to understand the downstream and upstream impact of decisions, right? And so being able to do that, look 2 steps ahead, not just work in my silo of maybe I own a portion of this business, the finance for a portion of this business, but how does this play a role in the entire flywheel? And that helps me to understand who I need to connect with and talk to, because they may not even know it yet, but a decision that I'm helping to quantify or a decision that I'm helping with is going to impact their side of the world. And so becoming a student of that, as you said, that is the game, right? And that's what makes you a better finance professional.
Yeah. And people just want to work with you, right? When
Yes.
you start thinking about their business and how you can help them and how they're, a major cog in the whole entire flywheel, people respect that. They appreciate that because we're all going through our thing, right? You even mentioned like learning from some of the mistakes you made. I mean, we're all going through that, the messiness, the man, did I do that right? Oh shoot, I messed up. And I love that you lean in there, and I can only imagine. I mean, just and I felt it. I feel it now, and I felt it in person. Is you just have this gravitational pull, what I would call this executive attraction power. But it makes sense. Like you're in it. You're strategic, and you care. I can hear it. That's really cool. I was really excited to talk to you about Credit Suisse. I mentioned it here in the intro. I'm actually, I just posted something on LinkedIn, which I love how active you are. We're going to talk about your wellness game. I'm loving it, by the way. But I recently posted, you know what? I hear so much chatter, even myself, like when I first started in any type of capital raise deals or M&A, right, with private equity or whatever. It was what I thought was intimidating, right? And I hear that chatter. It's like, what's going on back there? Like, what's going on behind the scenes? And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna post about this one recent one. It's a wellness company called Alchemize House. I said, you know what? There's a lot of finance leaders out there or up and comers that they just need to know like what goes down. And it's like, hey, you could do this. Like, obviously, do your homework and know how to, or ask a lot of questions and connect. Be a student. So I was really excited to talk to you about that as you were at Credit Suisse. You worked on major capital raises and M&A deals. Like, what were some of the lessons that you learned from investment banking that still influence and inspire your work today?
For me, the biggest lessons I took from investment banking really were the attention to detail. And when I say that, it's not just the attention to detail to the deals that we're working on or the analysis that we're doing, right? That is of the utmost importance, especially when you're going to pitch in front of a client, right? This was my first job post MBA. And so, great learning ground. You're going into these high stakes environments, pitching because you want the business, and these are large deals, right?
Big
It
checks.
also yes, it taught me attention to detail about my career and attention to detail when controlling the brands of my career, and not just essentially storytelling when you're pitching a deck, but how am I telling the story of my professional achievements? How am I making sure that I understand what's going on in my business, but also in the industry? So it just really left me with that attention to detail, because those were the people who really began to excel and shine, not just the financial acumen again, even being able to build the relationships, but had a keen attention to detail. And so that's what I took with it and I carry with me professionally going forward.
Yeah, I remember at the World Finance Forum, actually speaking of that and protecting your executive brand,
Yes.
highlighting your executive brand, you were on part of the personal branding panel there. Can you walk through that? We had Chris Ortega, of course, lighting it up, and I was looking at his shoes, his swag. I'm like, why can't I get a fade like that? Like, why I need a new barber? He always has like just fresh and tight, fresh FP&A, right? But can you walk us through that just from a finance lens? And I think we're seeing a lot of accountants, controllers, FP&A, modern finance leaders, CFOs that are using a platform like you do, like LinkedIn, to just get out there more, right? Still keeping it professional and polished. But what are your rules of thumb when it comes to personal branding?
Yeah. So for me, there's a kind of an internal and an external. So external is things like you said, like LinkedIn, right? Sharing your thoughts on LinkedIn, sharing your acumen. But there's also internal when you work at a company. I remember someone who I consider a mentor in my head. It's Carla Harris. And I remember reading an article way back when, right after business school. And she talked about owning your narrative, owning your narrative.
I like that.
And people believe what you tell them about yourself. If you tell them about yourself and then you follow up with the action. And I remember there was a time that I was being challenged with, well, do you have the technical capabilities? Because I had not done so well on a string of meetings. And I knew that I did, but I needed everyone else to know that. And so I started saying anytime I was reviewing a deck or analysis, whenever I was giving instruction to people, I would say, because you know the numbers are important. You know that I'm very strong with numbers. You know that the numbers are fun. And I tell you, about 3 months later, I overheard someone saying, we got to get this right because you know Kendra's strong with numbers.
Oh, I'm stealing that. I'm gonna steal it for a ton of things, even at home. Because I'm good with the kids. Like I'm good at, I'm stealing that. That is so good. You
Yes.
throw,
And I'm gonna say something like, I can dunk on Shaq.
yeah, yeah, yeah. True. Good point. Good point. Yeah.
That you can actually follow up. But
Good
maybe
call.
you're struggling with communicating that either through how you're showing up. It's just the repetitive nature of repeating that every day and showing up that way that you can begin to let your brand permeate to different people and groups and it will be believable because that's what it is.
Right. Yeah. To your point, you follow up, you show up. Right. It's like say what you mean what you say, and that's what I'm capturing from you. That's so good. Well, let's switch gears. Day one. So for those unfamiliar, what does day one mindset mean, and how does it apply to finance?
Yeah. Day one mindset is a way to keep you innovative. Anytime you go past day one, let's say you're in a day two mindset, that's when you're stagnant. And I actually struggled with that for a bit when I first started in a new role. Because finance is one of those areas where it's very easy to become stagnant. We have a lot of gap rules, how we have to think about how our P&Ls and our financial statements are going to shape up. And so I had trouble applying that. But what it essentially means is that you maintain a level of innovation in that what you did yesterday does not have to be how you do it today. And it really gives you the freedom to propose new solutions, either new thought processes, new mental models, new ways that we're going to engage, new ways that we're going to recognize things. It actually allows you to say, yes, maybe this is the gap viewpoint in finance of how our profitability looks, but let me show you more of a management or performer layout of profitability so you can really understand what leverage you can drive and that'll tie back to the gap output. It gives you an ability to have a creativeness in finance and then to truly serve your business partners and therefore your customers by keeping a day one innovative approach to things.
So good. And I can only imagine, let's just say we have some industry vets or company vets, 10, 15, 20 plus years. How do you challenge them as a leader within the organization? How do you challenge those vets like, hey, you still need to have a day one mindset. Appreciate, we value your years of service and and I'm sure they have a highlight reel, right? They're there for a reason. But how do you get them to think like a rookie, right? Like think like, okay, this day one, you're starting. What would you do?
Yeah. For me, one of the most responsible ways to do that, because like you said, people who've been in a role for a long time have a lot of institutional knowledge that's so valuable to the organization, is to begin to challenge them with data. And it's not going to be an immediate change, but it's somewhat in, okay. you have this process or we have this process, I'm going to run a parallel process for 3 to 6 months.
Oh, I like that.
I'm then going to look backwards and maybe show you how my new process, or maybe even something in between, and bring you into the conversation, right? Something in between is a better way to do this. Maybe it's quicker, maybe it's more accurate, but I'm going to have you walk with me. I'm going to respect the process that's in place. And then I'm going to use data to also check myself, right? But to show you what could possibly be better and more accurate. So that's how I would approach
Yeah.
that.
You're responsible with and for the team that, from some of the companies that I mentioned, and they typically have products that land in our homes. Let's put it
Mhm.
that way, right? Without going through all the details.
Yeah.
For some of the innovation that companies like Toys R Us, Credit Suisse, Amazon, and some others, those that you've been um, with and are with,
Mhm.
how do you use that day one mentality for some of the things that you're working on now, or maybe in the kind of recent past?
Yeah. I mean, we're using it now. As we all know, the big thing right now and probably indefinitely is AI, right? Bringing that into the way we operate in finance. And it is very new.
Yeah,
Very new and very different, I will say. Being able to find out ways to do things more quickly, actually carving out the time to continue to learn. It's something new that you have to learn and stay up to date with what's going on and what's changing and how you can utilize it. And then bringing your teammates along, right? And so that's how we're keeping my team at least focused on keeping a day one mindset so
yeah,
that we can continue to not let our skill set get stale. And it only allows us and enhances the way that we can service our partners.
so good. I'm a big fan of Allie K. Miller. She's all over LinkedIn, and I'm on her newsletter. But she said it the other day. She was like, take some sips of water. Voice is it. Voice, like it's not going to be
Yeah.
this, right? Or this, I guess. Um, you said get your voice ready. Voice is going to be everything. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree with that completely. I agree with that. But one thing that I'm currently looking at, so I agree with her in voice, is really the difference between just general AI, how we've thought about it, like putting an input in, getting a response out that I've told you should be the response, right? So yes, you're faster, but really thinking about agentic AI and how it's going to start to produce things on its own that I may not have even been prepared for, or that I then have to ingest, and how it becomes more autonomous and helps with understanding. Like that's what I'm excited to see, and how we command that and how we get really great at executing prompts, right? Because better inputs give us better outputs, teaches
Right.
it better. And so that's kind of where I'm like, you have to get on board with learning that. And that's what's going to be next, especially as a finance professional, right? Some of the things.
Yeah. How do you It's so interesting because I've been thinking a lot about this. It's like, how do you forecast that? Like, I'm thinking of all the key assumptions. Is it eight? Like, here's our agent. Like, you think like foot traffic or, website traffic. Here's our agent traffic. Like, or I've been spending a lot of time because I think a lot more. I was just at a fitness studio and they're working off of a token system, right? Just like OpenAI and some other AI platforms around usage.
Uh-huh.
And it was just interesting. I'm like, is this where we're going into this usage
Wow.
based,
Yeah.
token based, credit type of pricing models?
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting from voice to pricing to how do modern finance leaders start preparing for, yes, this agentic agent? I mean, it's here already. We're seeing it at little pieces, but
Yeah.
the whole shopping experience, for instance,
Yes.
is going to be completely different.
Yeah, it is.
It's almost, at least, and you'll know better than me, but this like agent with agent
Yeah.
communication. It's no
Yeah.
longer human to agent or human to
Exactly.
human, human to human. Do we still do those things? Uh,
Yeah.
Agent to agent. Whereas, and then I need to figure out, well, what the heck else are we going to do then? We don't have to do that. Like, what do I
Yeah.
go do?
Yes. I think it's important to take it piece by piece, and that's what I'm learning. So I don't expect anything that I'm working with right now to do my entire job. What I am actually using it for is to take some of what may have been the more mundane pieces that I can teach you how to probably do more quickly so that I can spend my mental energy and thought on some of the more crucial problems that maybe right now I can't teach you how to help me with. And so that's kind of where it's like piece by piece. It's not the whole kit and caboodle right in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good call. I like that. Start slow, right? Where are the low hanging fruit? It's like what
Mhm.
I told my wife or asked my wife yesterday, Danielle, what if you had four of you,
Uh,
what are the things,
yeah.
the mundane things that you're just like, I wish another Danielle can do for me if I had one? And start there. Now, it can't be, I mentioned my kids earlier. It can't be like, take care of the kids. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
we're not in robotics yet. And even then, I don't know if we want that. But you're right. Those little things that whether we can do it faster or maybe even just take the task, the mundane task. It's so interesting.
And I was telling some people on my team, things are going to change the way more junior people learn in this time because you still
Yeah.
have to build your financial acumen. And for
Right.
me, early in my career, some of those things were built by chugging the midnight oil in an Excel model and constantly breaking it, all those stressful nights. I got my largest lessons from experiences like that. I don't know how the current finance professionals who are graduating college are they going to experience that 5 years from now?
Yeah. What
Possibly
is
not. And so it's like you have to still find the other ways to build your acumen.
Yeah, I think at this point, right? Because it's also the strength of the intelligence. There are going to be things where it's like you don't, it's, I love that you brought that up because I was talking to someone about the education system. There was a recent video of, you probably saw it, a gentleman holding up his laptop, just kind of boasting that, hey, I finished my final papers using ChatGPT. And there was on the Jumbotron, everyone's laughing at graduation. I was like, I'm curious what the comments said. And of course they're negative. This guy's not going to make it in the real world. And who knows, maybe he does. I'm sure he'll figure it out. But the whole thing, I think the message is the education system teaching us things that we no longer need to do or know anymore. But to your point, when's that inflection point where it's like, you need to know the foundational things? Are we ever going to come to that point where it's like, you actually don't need to know the foundational things anymore?
Ooh,
That's a scary inflection point because if you're already racing to, I don't need to know the foundational because the AI takes care of it, you're in a whole world of trouble because it's just not there yet, right?
yeah.
It's not 100% proof. It's not
Yeah.
even close. What are your thoughts on that one?
I mean, we better get to the point where it can tell us why. Because I know
You're
when I
right.
talk to my business partners and other leaders, it's not just, well, here's the output. The first question is, well, why?
How'd you
And
get
I
there?
need to be able, yes, and I need to be
Hmm.
able to answer
That's a
that.
good point.
And
Yeah.
that's something right now that I mean, yeah. And so, I mean, if we
So
get
it's
past,
like in those math classes, like you always wonder, like why are we doing this course on proofs?
mhm,
You remember that the proofs? I'm like, I hate proofs. Like I know the answer. There it is.
well,
Now
I
I get
never
it.
hated it. I never
Yeah.
hated
Why? How did you get there? How? What?
it. And let,
Why? So for everyone listening, have your proofs ready, right? Don't just, it's not 100% proof. Don't just give it up. We're AI first. It's AI. We're good. No one's going to hold AI responsible right now. They're
exactly.
going to hold you responsible. So
Exactly.
that is so good. Well, you're a master storyteller. I shared my story about seeing you live, and I hope to see you again on stage. It was so good. But from a finance lens, and as we're turning numbers into a narrative, right? What is your best practices for taking numbers, that financial piece of it, and making the story actually compelling?
Well, for me, there's somewhat of a process I guess I go to, and how I stay in every stage of the process depends, right, on my ultimate goal. But I think first, in order to tell a story, you have to know who you're telling the story to, right? And so making sure I understand who I'm going to be telling this story to, and then if any pre-teaching needs to happen. Not that you ever need to teach an executive or anything. It's more so along the lines of if this is a very new topic or it's something that's going to change things, maybe I need to do a couple precursors. That's fine before getting to the main story. But then once I'm at the point that I'm telling the story, it's really about aligning what do I want to land, what decisions need to be made, and what do I want them to leave with, and that guides how I'm going to lay out my story. And then I'm going to make sure that my artifacts support my story in a compelling way so that they can follow and journey along with me. during my story, and I can bring them to the end point I need them to get to. And so
That's
that's kind of my
so good.
process for tackling it, because the artifacts can be your best friend. How you
And
ladies?
that's a very repeatable framework that you can use. So I'm thinking as I'm listening to you, I'm like, shoot, I took some nuggets already away. Like if I'm going to a board meeting or I'm speaking to the private equity group or investment group, that's a great framework to use where there's a lot of people, and as I've done this show, a lot of people will reach out to like, look, I don't have the leadership title yet to go do that, or how do I how do I go do that and just find get my leader to say yes, you know what, let's take a chance here, you can present this or you can handle this project, what have you. In this case, for presenting and all of that, how do you what's your recommendation on how someone can build influence so that they put themselves in those positions to be able to share a story or talk about the financials?
So the first thing I would say is show up. You need to have a record of showing up, because that earns trust with whoever you're then going to ask for the business from, right? You're going to ask for this authority from. So you should be in a state of having shown up. And that means coming prepared to things, offering insight. And then I think the next step of it is we should all be familiar with what's on the mind of our business leaders. If we are in a supporting role like finance, I need to either read my company doesn't produce any sort of internal docs that talk about where the leader's mindset is. If I'm part of a publicly traded company, I should be reading the K, I should be reading the Q. I should know what's on the top of mind of my leaders. And then I'm going to use
Such
the
good feedback.
skill of looking ahead, and then I'm going to position myself to be a part of the projects that are going to drive that business. I work for a company that goes through a goal setting process right now. And out of all the goals that are there, you can kind of see the ones that are going to bubble to the top. And maybe just maybe the most interesting to you to plug in and maybe fill a skill set gap that you have. You want to make sure that you attach yourself to those goals or those work streams that are going to get you there. And then once you've done that, you focus on solving problems of whoever's working on that work stream. It's not just asking for the authority. Sometimes it's about taking the authority. And I'm going to help you think through
Love that.
this problem, this challenge. I'm going to be part of the solution with you. And at that point, they can't deny your authority, and you'll be
Yeah,
invited to the table.
that's so
That's just
good.
that's how I would approach it.
And did you have a mentor? Because I want to switch gears into mentorship. Did you have a mentor, or how did you learn these things? Like, how did you, from your framework building to what you just mentioned around how you can establish trust and build that authority and credibility? Where does this all come from? First of all, and I recognize that grit, that midnight oil, it's breaking. I love the way you're, because it's messy too. People don't share enough of the messiness. You've gone through it, and I appreciate you doing that. So there's experience,
Yes.
right, and reps, but who were there any mentors of yours or current mentors or
Yes.
or any of that?
I've had many mentors that have walked with me over the long haul. Um, but there are a few key mentors, I will say. Some I didn't even know. Like I told you, Carla Harris, right? I took a nugget from something I read. So there's many mentors who you just take a piece of something that you've heard. But I'll tell you about two instances. Before I was in business school, I did this pre-MBA program and I had a coach. And there's a difference between a coach and a mentor. I've also had many amazing coaches. And I was so frustrated with this coach because every time I met with her, I felt like I was repeating myself. She wasn't remembering what I said I wanted to do. And I, thought I was going to be a big girl and call her on it. And she told me, she said, "Well, Kendra, you're not very memorable."
Ouch.
And that was such a shift for me. It's my responsibility to make sure that I'm memorable. It's not the responsibility of the person who's receiving me. It's my responsibility. So what, and I wasn't even sure about what made me memorable. And so that took me to a place of introspective work and making sure that I was focused on that. Um, and that was so helpful and pivotal to me. Another piece, I had a former boss who I had a critic amongst the ranks, a leader who just was not a fan of my work. And I was complaining to this boss, like, I just can't, no matter what meeting I'm in, she's like always a detractor. And she said to me, "Well, you need to make her your mentor." And I said, why would I do that? She can't stand me. And she said, make her responsible for your career.
Wow.
And it
That's a
never
that's a
occurred to
tall
me,
ask. That's
but I did it.
yeah.
And
How did you do that?
things. I told her, I said, I noticed that when I come into meetings, you have very strong opinions and they're so helpful and great. I want to start to meet with you before we get to that room and understand what's on your thought process. And maybe you can help me get to the level that, a little bit of massaging.
I like it. Yeah.
She was all for it. So then I was sort of pre-flighting with her, but then also asking her, like, help mold me. I didn't take all of her suggestions, but she did have some good ones. And so I ended up making her my mentor and having her work along with me in my career versus being a constant detractor that I kind of was trying to avoid.
Well, what I appreciate about what you just said, I mean, it's as easy as picking bits and pieces. It's funny. Someone asked me the other day, Albert, who's your, your circle of influence? And I said, well, what do you do? Are they alive or dead? And they're like, what do you mean by dead? I'm like, well, there's people in past that have written things that I use them as my mentor. I take bits and pieces of what they've written or said. And then there's people that are alive that I know or don't know, and they're my mentors, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
You can find these influential people or pieces, books, audio, podcasts, what have you. I love that you do that. And also you can seek out and spot someone where you're like, I'm gonna have the conversation with them, and clearly you had the courage to do it, and you had someone by your side hip to hip. That's really cool. But thank you for sharing that story. I can only imagine the angst that went into leading up to that conversation, but you did it.
Yes, yes, I had to.
Yeah. And how did it end up working out? Just
She's
what
still
did
one
that
of
look
my
like?
mentors today. We meet
That's
quarterly.
amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
she's a fan.
Well, I know we talked a little about AI and some of the work that you're doing, and you mentioned a couple ways that you're really tapping into it from a finance lens. I mean, I always say modern finance leader, right? There's the finance leader, then there's the modern finance leader. How does one on the finance side, how do they go from a finance professional, finance leader to staying relevant as a modern financial leader, or maybe even positioning themselves to stay relevant as a financial leader in the AI space?
I think one of the things I will go back to one thing that I said. I'm very big on learning and understanding your landscape. So whatever industry you work on, not just understanding what your company does, but what other players in the industry are doing by listening to investor calls, reading newspapers, blogs, everything like that. Because I think that can help to position you as a modern leader because you don't only understand what your company wants, but you understand what your competitors are also doing, right? And so I think also to be a modern leader, we have to let go of some of the fears if we have them. Not everyone has fears, but you have to lean in. You have to lean in. You have to find the time to lean in. You have to find the emotional capability to lean in and to learn something new. And you have to remain innovative. And I think surrounding yourself, like you mentioned, who are your influencers, right? Surround yourself by people who are doing the same. It's so crucial at this time that you develop certain skill sets that are going to keep you marketable,
Yeah,
keep you at the forefront, and give you the ability to lead teams and lead very smart people who are
right,
adopting this. Mhm.
right. And I know there's a lot of modern finance leaders that their organization and maybe even them are ahead of the curve, right? We're still seeing this lag of adoption gap, although I think it's getting there, right? I think 2026 is going to be very, very busy because a lot of organizations are realizing that, you know what, I see the ROI now. I'm seeing maybe some of the especially when you're a first mover, there's error, there's mistakes, all of that's getting ironed out. Security, trust, all of that's getting ironed out. um how do you see, and how would you recommend a finance leader balances this is for AI, yes, and we'll use the tool. This is just human judgment, human connection. You can't get around that. How would you recommend someone balances the two?
See, and that's a really tough question, Albert, and I'll tell you why. I think the balance is going to change. Like in the sense that maybe now it's 80-20, and then it'll become 70-30, and that's what is going to make winners winners, those who adjust with the balance. And
Right.
so I'm still figuring out myself how to balance, right, the learning. I work at an amazing company right now that gives you access to all sorts of learning tools, right? And it's not just about learning the vocabulary, but also learning the applicability, like how applicable it is to the work that I'm doing. And sometimes that can be a bit challenging. How do I bring it into work and allow it to change me? And so that's the balance point that I'm at now, right? But I would say probably in a year, I'm gonna have to be at a point where it's second nature. Like I'm having it work parallel with me. And what's your output, little agent over here? And what's mine? And then I'm gonna compare and I'm gonna know how, you know?
Yeah. No, and it's so funny because when we say these things out loud right now, I was
Yes.
just in front of a large group and I said, "Hey, so what is your digital species headcount goal next year?" And they're like, "No, no, not your human headcount, like not your team member human headcount, your digital species, your agent
Yeah.
headcount." You should have seen the faces. I'm like, I know it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to talk about.
Yeah. So I'm
Oh my
mostly
goodness.
balancing by keeping myself open to the change. And that's a very on purpose, you know,
I
and
think
how
that's a
it's gonna be.
superpower though, there is being open to your versatility, your adaptability. Yeah. Well, there's many that follow you on LinkedIn. So I had some questions that came up as, I have a little select group. Hey, we got Kendra coming on and people are pumped up. This question came in. How do you maintain perspective and balance in such a high demand role for a very fast moving organization?
Yeah, yeah. It goes to something you said, Albert. You mentioned someone asked you who's your sphere of influence, I believe, right? Who are those around you? I think it's also important to have people around you who love you. I think it's important to be responsible for your own joy. And when you're building a life that you truly love and can be proud of, work can sometimes just be, it's just a part of it. It's a thing I do, but it's not a whole, not my whole. And so then it keeps me in perspective of things, right?
Yeah.
I make sure that my heart stays at a place of service. Who am I serving besides myself? And so those things keep me in perspective when it comes time to also get into the hustle and bustle and the high stakes and that we've got to get this done and this is the most challenging, solving challenging problems, right?
Right.
To have some time to just love on others and be loved on and making sure that's a priority.
You gotta love on yourself too. So I told you I was gonna bring it up. So I see this great LinkedIn post that you made. You had your Normatec, blood flowing down to your heart. Like, walk me through your wellness game. Like, what you're pouring into yourself too? You have to. You got to fill the cup back up.
Well, I do travel a lot. I love meeting people. I study Spanish heavily. I have a Spanish teacher, so I visit a Spanish speaking country every single year and usually stay, I should say, someplace rural for a good amount of time. I love meeting people from different cultures, different experiences, different walks of life. I love learning. I also have a really mean Lego habit. I am an A-form. I am a
Are you a Lego master?
I am. I am. Yeah, maybe I'll let you into my secret Instagram of Lego that I
Yes, please. No,
yes.
it's funny. So my middle boy, Henry, is always, so I just came back from a trip and actually, I don't know if you share, but I'll share it. I met, it's one of the very few, he's licensed or has the exclusive rights. He worked for Lego for, I think, 40 plus years, him and his wife. Just met him at an event and so passionate about the brand. He's out here in the States and I think Canada as well. And I just let him know about Henry, and he just brought out the treasure trove. I'm like, this guy is amazing. It was amazing. You probably know him, so No, I'm a big Lego fan because of Henry. But yes, I want to be in your Lego secrets. I
I
want to
will let
know.
you in. And so,
Yes,
yes, I just have things that I hold so dear to me, people that I hold so dear to me. I just had my nephews here visiting me for like 3 weeks, had them in
amazing.
tech camp, was able to spend some time with them, love on them.
Wow.
I have amazing friends that I visit, making sure to keep my relationships fresh. It just keeping all those things happy and healthy and active is also very important to
Good for
keep
you.
everything into perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. I'm glad we chatted about this, and I'm gonna lean in there more. I really appreciate you sharing that, and I hope those listening took a little bit of that away as well. Well, last question. I want to respect your time.
Mhm.
If you could give advice to the finance professionals listening, what's one habit they can adopt right now, tomorrow, that would position themselves professionally and maybe even personally for the future?
Becoming, and I don't know if this is necessarily a habit, becoming a strong decision maker. And when I say that, the habit part of it is not letting our brains ruminate on decisions that don't matter and save our mental energy for the decisions that do. I have a recent coach who she's a decision architect. And I will say her name because she does amazing work, Michelle Ferrando. She's amazing. And she talks about the decision making process and how important it is and how to, because that'll help you course correct your career, course correct, maybe lean into a pivot, kind of give you the ability to have foresight. Everything is built into our decision. And I think I see a lot of junior people so maybe caught up in the wrong decisions that needs to be made. And so that's what I think, that as a habit, people just getting really good at your decision making.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's good. I think you were following me around this week or something because I needed that. So I really appreciate you for that. And I'm sure the audience loved it too. So good. Well, I really appreciate your time, just keeping it real and practical, specifically around, I think what people got away from today is not just finance or even AI, but just leadership lessons. And then also too, a lot of personal gems that you added in today. So whether it's a financial analyst listening or a modern CFO or somewhere in between, and even those wellness professionals that I'm connected to out there in the audience that is motivated by that too, or some mixture of finance, AI, and wellness. This was so good, so I really appreciate it. How can people connect with you, learn more about you?
Would say on LinkedIn. That's
Okay,
probably yeah, I would
love
say
it.
on LinkedIn. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, I really appreciate your time. I always like to talk about too here at the end, and I really appreciate your support here as well
Mhm.
about Valisights and this mixture of AI and finance. We're getting a ton of buzz. So for those that are looking to bring AI powered clarity to your financial back office, check us out. It's valisights.com. You can take a look at Cash IQ, which is the AI powered 13-week cash flow, or Trend Sites, which not only gives you the visuals and the insights, but now what, so what is what I think. And I always say that we're solving for is tell me what to go do. Fortunately, you can have a tool, an AI tool that can help you move back to decision making, make
Mhm.
better decisions.
Yes.
But such a pleasure to have you on. I was really looking forward to this. I learned so much. So I really appreciate you,
Yeah.
Kendra. This was great.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Well, everyone, this has been another episode of the Valisites podcast, and I'm looking forward. A reminder, it's every Monday, 8 a.m. Central, and we'll see you every single week. Kendra, thanks so much.
Thank you.